Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a look at the behind the scenes process of my new short film, Experiment 106. Now, I know it hasn't been that long since the last one. In fact, Where You Are Behind the Scenes literally just released like 2 months ago. But there's a new film and I need to talk about it. Now, this video is actually a lot more different compared to the other behind the scenes. And that's because if you notice the timestamps down below, this video is structured much more differently. We're actually going to start off with the origin of the film, so the pre-production and stuff like that. We're then going to go into the actual plot synopsis, so I'm going to break down the entire plot. And then after that, I'll be playing you all of the bloopers. That's because this film is significantly shorter, so I don't see a reason to kind of break it up into 5 different scenes and stuff like that, when really there was not much promotional material going into this film, and yeah, it's a lot shorter. Might as well just turn it into 2 slots. So if you want to see the behind the scenes footage, just hit the behind the scenes bloopers bit there and you can watch just all of them and skip this video entirely, because the reason why this is releasing on the same day is because, to me at least, if you have a behind the scenes and you have the original film releasing at the same time, it's a nice little burst of content, like when Where You Are came out, you know, it had 58 minutes worth of content. This gets you close to that, ready for the next set of films to begin, because Experiment 106 is simply replacing the films. It was supposed to be a bonus film, but anyway, let's just jump right into the structure and let's talk about the origin of Experiment 106. Where did it come from and how it came to be today? Alright, so Experiment 106 actually originates back in 2022. It was one of the cancelled projects for Short Film 4. I think I might have mentioned it in the Wildlife Behind the Scenes, and it was also a reference film within Alone. The film itself was originally very, very different. The original film was actually going to be a lot more like Saw. Obviously, this film is blatantly being inspired and showcases a lot of elements seen from Saw and the Belko experiment. Those are some of my cinematic influences when it comes to the script. Fully going to admit that, but the original version was very much like Saw. Originally, it was going to be these 4 people that find themselves in the room, and they were actually going to discover how they go along. They find, obviously, a little voice thing that tells you everything, but they find multiple clues hidden throughout the room that basically tells them what it is that they need to do. And another thing to mention that was kind of, I guess, I'm going to mention it again later, but something that I added towards Experiment 106 was the idea of an hour timer. The original script, the original version of Experiment 106, because it wasn't limited by 10 minutes, there wasn't going to be a timer. They were just going to be in there for an indefinite amount of time. So another thing that showed up within his story would be things like people becoming more depraved from being hungry, this idea that being taken away from their family for a lot more longer of a period of time, something that kind of doesn't happen within 106, this version now, because obviously they know they probably will get out within an hour, so that kind of things has to be changed up. And one thing the original story had was a different set of characters. Matthew Denver, who is playing his original counterpart, wasn't going to be called Matthew, was originally going to be significantly older. The female character that Rachel plays she mentions a little joke about, that she's not pregnant. That's a little reference because in the original version of the script, she was pregnant, and that was one of the reasons why she was viewed as more important. But one thing throughout all of Experiment 106 different versions is that the idea of upper class being valued over the lower class because of the potential they have in life was always going to be a part of the story. It was just going to change on who was a part of that story and kind of whereabouts the story would go. And there will be so many more different things going on, things like exploring the punishments, exploring kind of, I was going to basically introduce more rules that were going to be bent and pushed around a little bit because it was going to have a longer runtime. That now brings us to a bit more of a modern time where I had to make a coursework short film, and it can only be 10 minutes. And originally I was going to do a film called Birthday Party. Birthday Party was the concept of someone who has been diagnosed with a terminally ill disease, and that then means they are not going to be there for their next birthday party. So it was going to be kind of this somewhat interesting idea of what is the thought process of someone who knows that this current birthday party is the last one they're going to have. They're not going to see these later ages that all of us kind of expect of life. And it was going to dive in and become quite emotional in quite a nice kind of almost cryptic way. There's no real way to describe it because even I didn't know where I was going to take the story, and that's one of the reasons why I got replaced. The concept itself was quite enjoyable. I really enjoyed the idea of kind of taking these emotions and seeing what I can do with the story and the way that impacts someone, how it impacts the people around you. But the main thing with Birthday Party is that if I was going to put it, my coursework had to be 10 minutes long. Birthday Party simply couldn't fit into a 10-minute long slot. it would have been emotional, hard to watch, and overall have some really hard to make characters, and showcasing them in 10 minutes just wasn't really sitting right with me. If I was to make a movie like Birthday Party, it would need to be similar to the length of like Alone and Where You Are rather than a 10-minute slot. So I decided it's best that I remember that idea and maybe bring it to life another day, but for now it gets pushed to the sideline. Now there was this open slot. What do I do for this film? Now, so there's a free slot available. What do I do? So around about the time of maybe like February time where I was going to do Birthday Party, I had a conversation with Logan and Harvey. We're just having a conversation about, you know, our courseworks and stuff, and I'm not going to reveal anything of what they were going to do just in case they had a plan for it. I'm not too sure. But basically one of them was the idea of this kind of test going on, and straight away that just reminded me of 106, so I casually mentioned it and they liked the idea of it and said it sounded cool and loved to do it. However, that's when it kind of hit me. The one thing that ran into Experiment 106 production, the reason why it never happened, was the fact that it needed one room. I always imagined a abandoned building type thing, and I could just never get my hand on it. So that's why, that was the main thing that stopped Experiment 106 from becoming Short Film 4. Here, I've got access to a drama studio where realistically I can cover the walls with the curtains, claim that they're covering metal walls or brick walls, and there we go. We've got our one room. The concept can work. So after kind of realizing that, I departed from them and kind of started devising, what do I do if I was to bring Experiment 106 to the coursework short film? How is it going to fit? Because originally it was going to be, I estimated around about 48 minutes for the original version. Turning it down to 1 to 10 minutes is a bit of a feat. And so after lots of deliberating, I thought, okay, the best thing to do is kind of bringing an idea that can not only change the story but also doesn't feel like it's forced. I didn't want to try and rush the whole story within 10 minutes. I was like, let's introduce something that makes him kind of make up the fact that it feels rushed. And then it hit me. Main thing throughout 106 is kind of the plot beats, that after a few hours you kind of get introduced to more and more things. After 8 hours they're getting hungry. After 12 hours they're feeling mistrust and don't want to sleep. You know, things keep on stacking up. What if we was to take that concept and shove it so it can actually be shortened down to 10 minutes? That's when I decided to put the hour-long timer. This idea that, yes, they're not getting hungry, they're not getting psychologically damaged from being in there, but the fact that they have a timer on their lives, what concepts does that bring in? And so after thinking about the characters, the different things that they can find themselves in, and linking them to something that I'll mention a little bit later on, there we go. Experiment 106 now existed. It was shortened down, it was able to feel, and you could feel the emotions that they're going through, such as anxiety, worrying that they're not going to see their families, this idea that if they don't make a decision in time, they could all die. It has all the stakes of the original, just kind of shortened down and feels like we get a burst of time, and then also the timer adds a little bit of intensity for the audience as well. And I guess because I can't really mention certain things, I'm going to mention a couple of things in terms of the actual production of things that also went into it, if that makes any sense. Firstly, the set design. I put a couch and a piano and a desk that had the timer on it. This was to kind of build this illusion of kind of a mystery. Why, if they've been kidnapped, if they've been put into a what looks like a dramatized stage with different bits and props and stuff? It was to create a bit of questioning, whether or not you don't know what it means, and it kind of doesn't have a meaning in of itself. It's just there to kind of throw things at the wall and see what the characters pick up on. What do they find important as a part of this mystery? What do they look over and what do they not? Just kind of an explanation of their characters without actually having to tell the audience what to think. That allows us to kind of focus in on the actual story itself. The next part of the set design was the main part of the soundtrack, which was electronic based. I don't know, I really like the idea of this kind of technological scene where basically the original ideas of Experiment 106 that, not gonna lie, isn't in the film because we completely forgot, was this idea of basically getting this tripod that I'm using here and making it raise as high as we physically can. That then makes it so if we put a filter over the footage, it looks like security camera footage. And I thought that combined with music can make this really electronic kind of building up this reality that they got themselves in. They're in a custom reality outside of what they're used to for this period of time. Let's make it technological, let's make it advanced, let's make it really feel like they're in a Matrix-like world. And other than these slight adjustments of characters, including the plot twist, which now I can mention because I put a warning at the beginning of the video, but I'll say it now. Spoilers, that Reese Taeyong was actually the person behind the experiments. And that was an idea I had quite early on. If I couldn't develop and evolve someone around it, I thought, what if it was a nice idea that it was someone within the experiments who changes their backstory every single time to keep learning? No one's actually dying. If he keeps sacrificing himself, Everyone else is just being kidnapped just to be released again. It's this idea of gaining information rather than the idea of killing people, which is kind of the idea of kind of Saw and stuff like that. Is this death is kind of the main goal for the main person doing it. They want them to die. They want them to be filled with pain. Whereas Reese, or who you'll soon know, he will be returning. He'll be returning and his name will be revealed, but I'll keep it hidden for now. But Reese is basically, because of his facade, he is making out that he is kind of this lower class person, when really it is all about research. It is all about finding out what upper class people represent of the lower class. He puts in lower class, he puts upper class, he puts in people who are in need, pins them up against each other just to see how they react, purely for research purposes, which I feel like was a nice little twist. And as always, the actors absolutely killed it. This film is completely carried by the performance. Trying to realize this really unique situation is quite hard, especially for us that we're at the stage of, we're actors in training, we're not professionals yet, so naturally there are going to be places where we are going to be weaker at, and everyone absolutely fucking killed it, which is nice to see because this film is completely carried by the actors. Other than that, I think I've covered everything, but yeah, I think it's about time we get into the breaking down. The film begins with everyone waking up, this kind of slow moment where we pan around the room, we see what's going on and everyone starts to wake up, and we see some little character interactions of people trying to remain calm. One thing I want to mention is throughout this film, you'll notice that Reese is kind of this very obvious dialogue of, guys, stay calm, think about this. Guys, let's do this, let's do that. When you're first watching it, you probably think, oh, it's a bit weird that he's kind of on it, but fair enough, I guess. But when you actually start to watch the film, you'll start to realize, and upon rewatching it, that you would realize that this is because he is the person behind it. He wants to make sure that everything he wants to happen will happen. If everyone's freaking out for the entire hour, he's not going to get any research out of that. Whereas slowly guiding people in the right direction to look around for signs, to see if they can find any escape, realizing they can't escape, to finding the recorder. Everything is planned out by Reese, trying for people to find out what they need to do so he can get his research. It's the subtle pushing that I like, that I managed to take a little bit of the writing directions and taking of his character from the way that I did Alistair in Cuts and Bruises. Very quickly, they find the tape recorder that basically tells them they have 1 hour to sacrifice someone, and if they don't, they will all be killed. This immediately sets the scene. I wanted to say straight up, this is what this story is about, and we can jump right into it. And that is also shown throughout all of the different time jumps. Straight away, you'll notice the first time jump jumps to 36 minutes in. There is a massive 24-minute gap. Almost half of that timer has been completely eradicated, because in my mind, I always thought off screen, they would kind of just be standing there waiting, not knowing what to do. It's only with these key moments where you're halfway through, 15 minutes left, 5 minutes left, do they really start to jump to the thing of, we're running out of time, we need to start making some decisions. Quickly, we go right over to scene 2, which is mainly just to establish the characters. One thing about Experiment 106 is this idea that people with potential are viewed as higher in society. And so the only way you're going to know that is if we actually talk to the characters, if we actually find out what their backgrounds are. We find out Matthew has a kid that he wants to return to. That then makes him important because he provides for a family. We hear that Rachel has somewhat of a poor family and also they sacrificed themselves for her, so now she needs to provide for them. We find out that Reese has many projects going on and that he's about to become someone higher up, whereas Mark is then completely focused in on as someone who has nothing. He has no rewards, he has no aspirations, he has no potential in life, and is also, mostly throughout this, we kind of imply that he is somewhat homeless as well, without a place to go to once the experiment has concluded. We did this all to showcase the main story. This is what this is about. It's about the isolation of the underclass. After that, we kind of skip right over to scene 3, where things start to happen very, very quickly. This scene is all about Rachel having a panic attack. Everyone's kind of chilling out, and that's when Rachel has a panic attack, when she starts hitting the wall, and eventually it electrocutes her. This thing makes Reese kind of grab her to make sure she doesn't crack her skull open, and then this actually leads to a quick fight where Matthew is saying, let's just get rid of Mark, and they have a little fight. This then leads into Matthew being electrocuted from the inside, and everyone being freaked out. This is obviously the idea showcasing of the punishments. This whole scene was showcasing what happens if you break the rules. Also notice how in this scene Reese is specifically saying, stop breaking the rules. He is trying to guide them without making himself too obvious. But yeah, we then quickly cut right over to scene 4, which is not too long later, where we see that Rachel has already woken up, but is still kind of a little bit shocked from anything going on, and Matthew is just waking up. They then make the discovery that the electrocution is within themselves, rather than actually the walls or anything like that. So the punishment takes place within them. So no matter what they do, no matter how they try and go about it, they can't escape, because the thing wrong with them is within them. If they were to somehow break out early, they would just be electrocuted. There's nothing they can do. It adds this level of trapment and this idea that I kind of wanted to take on the audience's questions. Upon watching, people will naturally question, why don't they break out? Why don't they pick up the piano and slam it into the wall? You know, things like that. So I decided, if we have this idea that there is an electrocution punishment and you get zapped every single time you do something wrong, that then adds a level of thing. But then it's like, oh, well, don't touch the walls then if it's electrocuting you. But if it's within you, you're trapped no matter what you do. And I thought that was a nice way of kind of explaining why characters do what they do. Anyway, let's jump into the plot of this kind of segment. This segment talks about how after the attack, Mark and Rachel have decided to go against Reese's wishes, who he naturally wants to sacrifice himself. As the person behind it, he sacrifices himself because he knows that obviously no one's really gonna die. And so he sacrifices himself purely so he can get his research, but the others kind of turn on him and say, that's it, we're voting for Matthew. Matthew tries to fight, but is naturally still kind of, his body isn't really working after the electrocution. Reese denies it, and then we move on swiftly into the final scene. Quick note, I know I've been very quick with the plot synopsis, but I really do feel like this whole concept and the explanation really goes towards more of the style of the film rather than the story. The story is quite split out. Everyone is from different backgrounds. We kind of explore how they view each other due to that, and they fight, they panic, they get punished, etc. It's quite relatively simple, so I feel like there's no need to kind of jump into the story. And the main reason of this video is to explain the backstory and to give you bloopers. And so I'm putting this in mainly of obligation, because let's be honest here, it's fun to talk about and break down the story as we're going along. Anyway, the kind of final segment of the film is straight away Mark and Matthew fighting each other. Rachel tries to get intervened and gets slapped. Reese tries to intervene and gets punched, and eventually he breaks it up and goes on this monologue about how he has done something wrong. Obviously, this is a complete lie. This never happened to him. This is him just making it up to convince people to sacrifice him, because him as a character knows he's got what he wants. He's seen these two fighting, the upper and lower class fighting each other, and that's all he had actually wanted. And so he makes this whole monologue about how he's made mistakes and that he sees that everyone is turning into animals, and makes everyone reflect on themselves, which is something we will be kind of exploring and showcasing later on. I'll get to that. And then this is when we then see the guards walk in, played by Rocco and Edward. Edward is actually new to the films and we're returning in the film later on, but Rocco is obviously known for characters like Alistair and Kyra respectively. Now, as they come in, they kind of guide everyone out, they leave, and then we show the final plot twist that Reese was actually the one behind it. He pulls out an audio file, well, kind of a microphone, and then we get revealed that it gets uploaded to an audio file. And eventually you hear all these things such as, there has been however many experiments, I can't remember, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but we hear all the different experiments going on, all the different participants, how everything is proceeding and how his research is coming along. And then we hear the final words, which is, end of experiment 106, begin experiment 107. Which means this ending completely implies that there has been God knows how many experiments. Considering the film's called Experiment 106, we can imply that there has been 106 experiments before this, which if you actually calculate it, that is true. And then you obviously hear that he is doing Experiment 107, includes that he is going to continue to be making this process, and it can go on for God knows how long. Now, my next film is a big feature-length project, and the reason why I keep talking about the importance and how I'm not talking about Reese and Matthew and stuff like that is because these characters return. We are continuing this story in the next film. I've got some really big plans that I can't wait to do with these characters. They're really fun, really emotional, and kind of a nice way of taking these characters. And more specifically, Reese and his real identity is returning. We are going to dive deep into what is behind him, and he is the front runner of the film. And the reason why I'm spoiling this now is because within the film I've got it scheduled that it basically gets revealed very, very quick. So yeah, can't really talk about much about it because I don't want to reveal everything about the new film, but yeah, that's what I keep talking about with Reese. Kind of not, we don't know a lot about him, but this is almost like a start of an origin because he becomes quite important as we go along. Anyway, I think that is it. We are finally done. Oh, that was a long plot synopsis because I did it all in one go. Usually I'd spread it all throughout the video, but here we go. Plot synopsis done, and I think, you know what, it's about time we showcase these bloopers. This whole film was filmed all in one night. It was in the middle of Where You Are's production as well, so yeah, it got all filmed in one night, so I thought, you know what, let's just put the whole plot together, the whole bloopers together, and showcase them here. So, yeah, have fun, look at some bloopers, there's so many, so have fun. Two, one.
Hold up.
Sorry, I found that so funny. So I didn't.
Life's good blood. As long as 3 hearts are beating, that's all that matters.
So that's small.
You made me laugh.
All right.
Wait, the timer.
Fucking vote someone. What kind of sick bastard is this? I looked up.
1, go. 2, 1, go. I forgot the line.
Well, these curtains are covering still. You've been awfully quiet. Let me regroup. Oh, that's funny.
All right. Action in 3, 2, 1, go.
You've been awfully quiet.
1, go.
I'm playing with my leg here. I don't know.
2, 1, go. One, go. He's smiling. Stop! You can't. No, don't. 1, go. Stop! Listen to us. Listen. We don't.
That's it. I know who I'm voting for.
What?
I'm not letting anyone else get hurt. I'm picking you. I'm voting for.
What?
So that's it. I know who I'm voting for. That's it. I know who I'm voting for.
What?
That's it. I know who I'm voting for.
What?
I'm not letting anyone else get hurt. I'm picking you. That's it. I know who I'm voting for.
What?
That's it. I know who I'm voting for.
What?
He's smiling.
That's it. I know who I'm voting for.
Go around because I'll turn straight
Yeah,
away.
3, 2, 1, go.
Exactly.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
What? And you guys are okay? What? And you guys are okay with that?
There we go. I might end up changing up what goes on within this video and editing. I'm not too sure because obviously if it's a bit too much bloopers, a bit too much story, then maybe I might change it. But anyway, I hope you did enjoy the video. Yeah, this is quite short, quite thin, because I just wanted to get everything with Experiment 106 out at the latest point. That then means the gap between this and the next film is quite minimal. But yeah, I hope you did enjoy the video. Please make sure to do like the video if you liked it. Comment down below, what do you think of Experiment 106? Are you excited to see some of these characters return so we can develop this story and the themes and messages a lot more now that they're not stuck within an 10-minute time slot? And yeah, that's kind of it. I overall do want to say I am very sorry for Wildlife not being made and this film having to cover up for it, because It sucks. You know, I really wanted to make the 5 main Chapter 2 films, with Experiment 106 being a bonus film, and now that film hasn't been made. Experiment 106 is being thrown out here, so I don't even know, because as of recording this video, it's not even out yet, so people might not even kind of view it as a good Chapter 2 film, so it might not even do that well, but just kind of overall apologies for everything that happened there. I know it's kind of not my fault, because, you know, appendix surgery, but I don't know, it just feels weird that now we are missing that film. But I still intend for everything to be going as smoothly as possible, and the next 2 films have been very far in pre-production. In fact, the 5th film of Chapter 2 has been kind of, its first draft of its script got written back in January, so it is going to be over a year old when we start to make it. And this other film has been in development for 4 years. As of us starting that, it will be 4 years. And yeah, it's been making some really good progress pre-production. I'm only 2 months into it, and it's got basically a first draft going and everything, and it's looking so good. I'm really, really, really excited to bring to you guys these next 2 films, because they're everything that I wanted Chapter 2 to be. But anyway, enough of that, enough of me rambling. I'll see you guys in December, January time with the next film. And other than that, I hope you do enjoy. Socials are down there. You'll be seeing all kinds of teasers, because I know Experiment 106 didn't get any teasers whatsoever other than that short trailer. The next films will be getting tons of teasers, tons of showcasing what they are all about. So yeah, go check out the socials to go see all that. And I think that's it. I don't think I've got anything else to talk about. I'm done waffling. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.